Good morning to all of you. It's not very strong as in Cameroon or in Central Africa. Bonjour. Good morning. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure and excitement on behalf of our entire team here at the Foundation and CAFU Policy Institute to welcome all of you to the third annual Central Africa Think Tank Forum. This is indeed a wonderful occasion that we have here today, one that has been made possible by a lot of hard work that we see from people in this room. The Central Africa Think Tank Forum, ladies and gentlemen, is something that we conceived in partnership with many of our colleagues in the region, many of our think tank partners in the region, to figure out how to continue to support policy processes in the region towards advancement. Okay. We know that we are living in a region that, unlike other regions in Africa, is plagued by real enormous problems. I am not saying that we are the only ones with problems, but we have very specific particular problems. I was talking with my colleague from one West African country, and in the way he described Central Africa, he said, we are very particular, très particulier. He was being very generous in saying we are very particular because the issues that we have in our region are really major issues. We have in our region the lowest human development indices across all of sub-Saharan Africa, all of Africa. We have a lower life expectancy, lower incomes, and an overall poorer quality of life in the region. In other words, in our region, the level of human development in our countries remain sufficiently really insufficient to meet the challenges, the basic needs of our current population, not to talk of our future population. So there are many, many issues. The United Nations in 2022 estimated that 51% of young workers in Central Africa live in very precarious conditions and extreme poverty. These are young workers, so they are working. And their exposure to extreme poverty is really compounded by the fact that in most of our countries in the ECAS region, a job does not guarantee you a decent living conditions, and most of the time it's not a pathway out of poverty. Female employees are even more vulnerable than their male counterparts. And this inequality really continues to increase. Now, the percentage of women who are in vulnerable employment, those unpaid family workers, those self-employed, is estimated at about 80% compared to 65% for their male counterparts. You can see that there is a huge disparity there. In our region, it is also not surprising that the Central Africa region is the least integrated of all the regions on the continent, and the region where the civic space is arguably the most restricted. Now, we are here today as think tank CSOs. Now, think tanks and independent policy research institutions really play a critical role in championing the collective and positive future, especially in pushing for open societies and very sound economic policies. That is their work, that's their job. They are pivotal engines for improving human capital and stimulating public dialogue, especially with regard to policies built on evidence and how you use evidence to ground economic transformation. Now, when you think about think tanks as a whole, in our Central Africa region, we have less than 70 serious, credible think tanks. Now, I want you to just picture South Africa as a country alone. South Africa alone has more than 110 credible independent policy institutions that are contributing directly to improving the policy landscape in that country. I usually do not like to make comparison between, Cameroon, Central African countries, and countries outside Africa, because they always say, c'est les Occidentaux, so that conversation ends there. But when we look at our region and the regional inequalities that exist, we must ask ourselves, what we can do collectively to move the needle forward. Now, recognizing this huge problem, we and CAFU Foundation and all our partners in the Central Africa region decided to organize the Central Africa Think Tank Forum, a forum that brings together policymakers, renowned researchers, think tankers, practitioners from the regions and also people from outside the region. And our goal was very simple, a simple goal, for us to come together and put our heads together, to take a very serious introspective look at ourselves and look at our region and figure out how we can enhance our capacities, our capabilities, to inject real evidence into the policy-making processes in our region. So that's the goal. How do we inject real evidence into the policy-making processes in our regions? This is what the forum is about. Now, over the last 2 years, as you can tell, as you know, this is the third forum, and they say after you've done the third one, then it's happening, right? So this is the third forum. We have made some tangible progress during this short period of time. First, through a loose network of more than 20 Central Africa think tanks, we have gotten to first really know each other very well, each other's organizations, their areas of expertise, and how they are contributing in their individual countries. This has led to a second very important development. We have now increased collaboration between these institutions. There is joint research endeavors, joint policy programming, and working together with partners from the regions, partners from Gabon, from Chad, from Congo-Brazzaville, Democratic Republic of Congo, Burundi, Central African Republic, and yes, partners from Cameroon. We have conducted joint research endeavors and policy engagements on a multitude of issues that affect our region. Inequality, as I mentioned earlier, informality, inclusive growth. What are the measures that we have to take and how we have to support governments in this effort? We have worked on women's rights, on accountability, on security, and how you have and develop integrated governance in the region. Together, we are working on enhancing the governance ecosystem in the region. We have also recently embarked on a new initiative to improve policy advocacy, collaboration, and effectiveness of think tanks in the region. We believe, my friends, that these are just a few examples of what is possible when we work together, what is possible when we collaborate. These are early successes, and as Mahatma Gandhi mentioned or demanded us, we have to be the change we want to see in the world. We have to be the change we want to see in the world. In fact, it is the raison d'être of this forum. What is the future we want to see, and how can we help shape that future? It is something that's imperative on all of us in our individual ways. Now, progress may be slow, but we are not discouraged. We remain committed to doing our part to contribute to the overall betterment of our countries, our communities, especially with the use of real evidence to inform the policies we make. Because I say this over and over again, when we make a mistake in a policy and we put a bad policy in the books, it takes a long time to undo that mistake. It usually takes more than 2 to 3 decades to undo a policy mistake. So our job is to make sure we help our governments, our countries, to not make the policy mistake in the first place, to ensure that the policies we put in place are real grounded on evidence that help contribute to the betterment of our communities. Now, the theme for this forum, the third one, is Shaping the Future, the role of think tanks and civil society in Central Africa policy processes. It represents more than aspirations for our policy institutions and CSOs to move from the margins to policy to the center of policy debates. It's more than that. It reflects the complex realities of our region and the transformations we want to see and that we must engage in. Ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, over the next 2 days, we will be forced to address practical questions, very practical questions. How do think tanks maintain independence while engaging constructively with governments? How do we do that? How do we ensure that we really engage with governments to ensure that there is real uptake, tangible uptake in the evident policies that we know are out there? How do civil society organizations build research capacity that is needed to guide complex policy discussions, while at the same time remaining rooted in their community realities? It's a complex challenge. How do we create sustainable funding models that support long-term institutional development? These are key issues, challenges. They are real, but I will hazard that they are not insurmountable. They are not insurmountable challenges. The solutions, my colleagues, exist, and they exist in this room, in our collective experiences in building institutions that have survived political transitions and have survived major resource constraints. Your presence here is more than professional networking. It represents part of the intellectual infrastructure in our region and part that we really want to push forward. Now, colleagues, as I close, I want you to give me just 1 minute to highlight a specific, particular group of participants here today. Since 2018, we have been running a very unique program at the foundation called the Emerging Leaders Program. The program has a very ambitious target and goal. Every year since 2018, we undergo a very rigorous process to identify 20 young Cameroonian leaders between the ages of 18 and 35 from all 10 regions of the country who are doing simply spectacular, amazing work in their communities. We bring them to Yaoundé. For the last 6 years or so of having this program, it's always been in Yaoundé, so please don't accuse me of anything yet. We bring them to Yaoundé and take them through 3 days of deep leadership immersion, allowing them to not only build networks, but to even question their understanding of leadership, look at the ways in which they can improve themselves, their understanding of their country, their understanding of the region, their understanding of the continent. And we give them opportunities to meet national and international leaders that, we only watch on television. But during this program, they have the opportunity to meet them in the flesh and get to pick their minds, ask them difficult, tough questions, learn from them. Now, this year, the competition for these 20 spots was very steep, just like the previous years. We received 363 applicants for 20 positions. And today we have 20 leaders, the top 20 leaders who came out of this process and finished yesterday their 3 days of immersion. Ladies and gentlemen, these 20 leaders, there are 9 female colleagues and 11 male colleagues. I would like to recognize them for their efforts and all the leadership work that they're doing. Please, can you stand up, please? Thank you. These leaders come from all 10 regions, and I would want to really beg that please support them. Please be generous with your time when they come up to you, and they've promised they will come up to you when they come up to you to talk about their projects, talk about their work, or get to know what you are doing. So please support them. Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, the future in our region and our policy processes lies in building internal capacity that generates influence and produces real results. This forum, in our judgment, represents a crucial step towards this destination. The future is really ours to shape. So welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the 2025 Central Africa Think Tank Forum. Thank you.